ohlelweni lwe-Ithala Edu platform enilethulelwa ngezilokotho ezinhle Ithala kanye ne-Go Digital SA Foundation. Thamelani izifundo ze-mathematics, i-accounting, isiZulu ulimi lwasekhaya, isiNgisi, i-FAL, i-physical science, i-geography, ezobuchwepheshe, i-computer applications technology kanye namaklasi e-learner wellness okungukuzilolonga ngokomqondo kanye nomzimba. Lezi zifundo zethulwa nsuku zonke kusukela ngoMsombuluko kuya ngoLwesihlanu kuqala ngehora lesi-4 kuya kwelesihlanu u-4 kuya ku-5 ntambama nangomgqibelo kusukela ligamanxe ihora lesi-8 8:30 kuze kugamanxe ihora lokuqala emini 1:30. Zithameleni futhi lezi zifundo emsakazweni Ukhozi FM njalo ngoLwesine kusukela ngo-9 kuya ku-10 ebusuku. Ningangena ekhasini lethu lika-Facebook elithi Go Digital SA_movement noma kwi-YouTube uthi Go Digital SA Foundation. Siyethemba nizolijabulela lolu hlelo oluhlose ukunifundisa futhi lulekelele kulokho enikufunda ezikoleni zenu. Luthokozeleni ke lolu hlelo nimeme nabo bonke abanye abafundi bebanga le-12 grade 12 ukuze nabo bazuze kulo futhi nonke nicijeleke ukuphumelela kwizivivinyo zenu zokuphela konyaka.
Sibulise bafundi bebanga le-10 matipletsheni. Khumbulani ke bafundi ukuthi sisekhona isikhathi sokuyilungiselela noma ukuyicija nicijela iphepha lenu le-accounting. Nizobhala ngomhla ka-4 December nangomhla ka-7 upaper 2. Namhlanje ke siniphathele i-bank reconciliation statement, right? We normally call it BRS. Kuno 2 marks ke laphana eqaleni nje abaqale bakubuze wona, what is the main aim or what is the purpose of doing i-BRS? For 2 marks you have to write one of these points. There are many points for internal control purpose or measures, right? It's one of the reasons why we have to do a bank reconciliation statement, right? Because here siya reconcile, right? Khumbula even naleli izwe leli liphuma esikhathini esimbi okanye esinzima kakhulu. So yikho nje manje i-holiday likhona, i-day of reconciliation, and then bese sekuba uChristmas, right? So if uma ngabe ukhuluma ngokureconcile ke emfundi ukhuluma ngezinto like, as we know ukuthi this country we are coming from that era okwade kuthiwa i-apartheid noma yobandlululo. So people were staying in different places ngendlela yokuthi mhlawumbe uthe ukuthi abanye bamhlophe abanye bantsundu njalo njalo. So ke now that's why kukhona leli holiday lelo kuthiwa i-day of reconciliation. Nalapha ke kwezohwebo noma kwezomabhizinisi sifuna ukucheck ukuthi incwadi zethu, our journals and the bank accounts ayafana ne-bank reconciliation. So we're trying to reconcile. There are many terms ongawasho uma ukhuluma nge-reconciliation. Ungakhuluma nge-peace, ungakhuluma correcting the imbalances of the past, ungakhuluma nge-unity, yabo ziningi izinto. So into ezama ukuyenza ke la sifuna ukuchecka ukuthi incwadi zethu ziyafana nencwadi ese-bank. Remember i-bank statement yenziwa i-bank, but funa si-check ukuthi i-bank iyenze kahle yini noma mhlawumbe kuyavumelana yini lokho esikwenzile nalokho okwenzeka e-bank. Kuyenzeka kwesikhathi kube khona amaphutha. Yikho nje kuthiwa one of the main reason of doing a-bank reconciliation statement is to correct the errors and the omission. Kwesinye isikhathi uthola ukuthi thina senza amaphutha noma i-bank elenze iphutha. So funeka correct ke. So into funeka siyenzele each and every month. I-bank reconciliation statement is being done on a monthly basis. Each and every month funeka uthole i-bank statement basiprintele bese sesiya check ukuthi yonke into ihamba ngononina yini. So one of the reasons, as I already said, is for internal control procedures or measures to correct the errors and the omission, to correct the bank balance. You see, you can even come up with other solution for this, because this one is just an open question. So that is basically 2 marks noma 4 marks la ungafuneka umthole mfundi. Ngifuna nje ukuthi nguneze i-principle yokuthi how to master this question, because le question ka paper 2, right? Paper 2 nje bathanda ukuthi baqale ngawo, mhlawumbe ubonile almost all amaphepha engiwabonile lawase eGauteng, Eastern Cape, iFree State nala KwaZulu Natal. Question 1 was bank reconciliation. So i-bank reconciliation izobuzwa on paper 2, and kufanele wenze sure ukuthi amama uyawathola and wathola onke, right? So that is the main aim of doing bank reconciliation statement for internal control measures, to correct the errors and the omission, to correct the bank balance, right? Bese bakhona ama questions ke abathanda ukuthi babuze, ngihlale ngiwabiza ngokuthi ama starter. Yabona uma uthothi unikezwa ukudla beniqale ngokudla nje okusimple noma okulula noma okulight before the real food. I-theory yakhona la kwa bank reconciliation. Now nje umbuzo oqala uthi a check that is more than 6 months old, okay, state whether true or false. Yabo, a check that is more than 6 months old, what do you call that check? Sithi i-stale check, right? I-stale check, so which means i-check elihleli noma ehleli for more than 6 months, sithi i-stale check, right? Ngizokuthatha nje kancane ngikuse emuva ngubonisa ukuthi indaba zo stale check no RD zikhuza kanjani, right? Let's draw a check. Senze kanje mfundi. Let's draw a check la. I-check njengoba wazi kuthiwa it's a negotiable instrument. Ezinye zendlela zokukhokha sibiza ngokuthi it's a check. I-check it's a piece of paper that represent cash noma money, right? So this is the check. I-check kufanele ibe ne-date, mhlawumbe ngibhalela ngithi 05 010 2020, right? This is the check, and then ngibhale maybe here Absa Devon. Then sengiyabhala here la ukuthi pay Tira an amount of 6,000 rand. 6,000 rand only. Bese ke ifigure yakhona bese ngiyayibhala futhi in figures, njengoba sengibhale in weights, right? Bese ngiyaqhubeka mhlawumbe libhalwe i-check la kuthiwa order. Sorry, order or bearer. Order or bearer. This is order. Order or bearer. Okay. Bese ngiyasayina lapha ezansi ngithi maybe M Mampintsha. Mampintsha, right? Nanti check lethu sikubiza ukuthi lokhu it's a negotiable instrument, right? Uma ngabe usufunda amabanga aphezulu e-tertiary, indlela enye yokukhokha, zinindlela zokukhokha bakwethu, khokha nangama stamps manje nama EFT, right? Nangama credit card, enye indlela yokukhokha lokuthiwa i-check, right? So this is a piece of paper that represents the check. So bese bakhona ama questions abuzwayo. Lento le iyakusiza ke mfundi ukuthi uunderstand kahle ukuthi kwenzakalani kwi-BRS noma kwi-bank reconciliation statement. Naka imbuzo ke ofuneke ukuthi siyiphendule bese sesiyabuya kwi-check lakhe ilamini lethu. Oqala, who is the drawer? Who is the drawer in our case, in our check here? Who is the drawer? Right? Wesibili, who is the drawee? Who is the drawee? Yes, imbuzo yethu le emithathu nje. Ogcina mhlawumbe engawubuza manje, who is the payee? Who is the payee? Right. Asibhekeni ke laphana nathi check lethu. Right? We have Absa, Durban, pay Utira an amount of 6,000 rand only, order Obera. Mhlambe uthe ukuthi bazomcima noma ubera or bacime uorder bamscratch, but is there but ucrashiwe. Then nansi equation iyabuza ithi equation, who is the drawer? Who is the drawer here? A drawer is always someone who signed the check. If you look here, someone who signed this check is M. Mampintsha. So Mampintsha is a drawer. So M, not a drawer like peasants, right? Someone who endorsed the check. We call it an endorser, right? Someone who signs, right? M. Mampintsha. So Mampintsha ke uyena ke oyilokuzana yethu, oyi drawer yethu, because is an endorser, is someone who signs, right? Mampintsha is someone who signs. Is someone who signed the check. That is our drawer, right? Or we call it an endorser. Endorser, right? Someone who signed the check, right? That is Mampintsha. And then who is the drawee? A drawee, it's always a financial institution that is on the face value of the check. Ilola ilamene shute kusuke kule kube ilelo bank lelo, mhlawumbe if let's say Ithala bank, Ithala, mhlawumbe FNB, all these commercial banks. So in our case it's Absa Durban. This is our, okay. A drawee, it's always a financial institution that is on the face value of the check. Who is the payee? A payee, to whom a check has been drawn. Silpaele ban le check leli, ubani Utira. Right, so Tira in this case, it's our payee. Right. Bese ke omunye umbuzo esingawufaka la, for how long the check will be valid? For how long the check should be valid? Remember, into makuthiwa valid or isuke right, for how long? So it's only for 6 months. 6 months, check. It's only for 6 months. After 6 months, check suke seli stay. It's only for 6 months. 6 months. After 6 months, okay, after 6 months, we talk about the stale check. Right. Kwesinye isikhathi ke unokuthatha i-check noma unezwe i-check ulise ebank. Uma ufika ebank khona lokuthiwa ama-essentials. Ama-essentials i-name of the bank that happens to be i-drawee, i-date, right? A payee, i-amount written in words must be the same that is written in figures, nane-drawer. Mhlambe uthothi uyafika lapha ebank bavele benze kanje, babhale ukuthi RD, which means return to the creator, return to the drawer. I-creator yethu le la sithe ubani u-M Mampintsha, yabona, babhale ukuthi RD. Bengasho lutho, right? Which means you must return to the drawer. I-reason, there are various reasons ke, kunezathu eziningi abanga izameni ezingenza ukuthi i-check ebank uma ufika upresent balibhale ukuthi RD, right? Mhlawumbe uthe ukuthi i-date it's already more than 6 months, so it's a stale check. Normal, there's no payee, there's no drawee, or there's no signature of the drawer, or maybe the amount written in words is not the same as the one written in figure. For instance, maybe let's say here they talk about 6,000, kodwa wena la mhlambe ubhala 600. So uyabona ukuthi akusafana, akusacorrespond. So ebank bazofika balibhala ukuthi RD. Ezinye zezathu ezinye zezizathu ke mfundi ezingenza ukuthi i-check libhalwe ukuthi RD mhlawumbe uthe ukuthi izana i-check lakho lishwabene lokuthiwa it's multilated, right? Noma mhlawumbe isithoni mhlawumbe lidabukile, yabo lidabukile i-check lakho uma ufika ebhenki uthi lapha kuthiwa no siyabonga babhala ukuthi RD, noma it's a stale check njengoba kade sengishilo, or maybe some of the essentials azikho, there's no date, there's no drawer, there's no pay, and there's no the figures and written in weight are not the same, right? So izo yazinto. And if we check libhala ukuthi RD liyafana nanokuthi lenjani RD, which means okay, return to the drawer. Okay, let me just write it this one, RD return to the drawer, or it's the same as unpaid or dishonored check, dishonored check, right? Dishonored check, it's an unpaid or RD, right? So which means it's a CPJ. So still liyakweletwa le check lifuna urecord kuphi kwi CPJ. Yizo ke lezi izathu engenza ukuthi i-check kuthiwa sithina election libhampile, right? Mhlawumbe ungathi uthi lithoni noma is multilated noma sekuphele u6 months. Kwesinye isikhathi uthe ukuthi hayi ngoba nakusokuphele u6 months kodwa uthi linjani li post dated. Mhlawumbe let's say libhalwe umhla ka10 October wena ulihambisa namhlanje, right? So we have to wait up until umhla ka10 but not more than ubani u6 months, right? Because which means mali njalo the check is what is post dated, the date is not yet, ayikafiki i-date, funeka ulinde up until kube i-date lebhaliwe kuli check, kodwa ungabi more than u6 months ngoba after 6 months sekuzoba yini i-stale check, right? Ngicabanga ukuthi ke uyibambile ke indaba ka stale check no RD as well as ama players abakhona kwi check, right? Mhlambe nje kwesinye isikhathi uma ngabe usufunda uzothola ukuthi bakubuze what is a definition of a check, right? I-check definition yakhona is very simple, iku-check vele nje ubona nje la, right? We are saying it is an unconditional order in writing addressed by one person, so which means in this case it's Mampintsha, to the bank, requesting a bank to pay a certain amount on a specified future date. But again, we cannot come across that one for now. When we are at tertiary, you come across a definition of a check if we are a commercial law, right? So let's go straight to get in that way BRS. I would say ngendlalile ukuthi ke khona izobalula kakhulu lento le your RD no stale check and so on and so forth, right? So hamba kunama steps. But before we go to the steps, we already dealt with stale check, right? And then now there is okay, the internal control procedures. Maybe I will introduce it later. Let's just shoot straight on the steps. There's step 1, step 2, step 3, right? I would say this is step 1, right? Step 1. Step 1 is cash journal, CRJ, as well as CPJ, right? CRJ and CPJ, that is the step 1, right? You'll be having the balances here, respectively, total balances, right? First thing first, before you do anything, okay, let's say you want to start with the CRJ. On the CRJ, you must check whether there's no stale check. The stale checks is correctable on the CRJ. So one of the figure here must be a stale check. Stale check. Stale check, we are checker ukuthi alikho ni check on the previous BRS ukuthi asikho ni stale check. If sikhona uyosifaka kuphi ku CRJ. Uphinde ucheck namanye ama income azovela noma azoqhinga ku equation mfundi njenge rent income, mhlawumbe kwibhalo kuthiwa the tenant has paid the rent or the business has let a space to a tenant and therefore we are getting the money in return. Ufuna kuyirekhodela lo mali mfundi, right? Any other income engaba khona uzoyirekhoda ngapha on the CRJ. Remember CRJ imali engenayo is we record on the CRJ, and there is for CPJ imali ephumayo all the outflows of cash and the inflows of cash in the CRJ. Then usuya-check la ku-CPJ. Ku-CPJ uzoba nama-figures afana no insurance. Remember we have to pay for the insurance, so it's a CPJ. Uphinde ube nani manje? Uphinde ube ne-RD. Angisho khumbula ukuthi state i-RD, return to the drawer. If there's any RD or unpaid, right, we record kuphi on the CPJ. So if we have an RD, return to the drawer, or unpaid, right, or dishonored or unpaid check, it's a CPJ. Ube maybe nama interest on overdraft, right, interest on loan, interest on mortgage bond. So any interest, let's say interest on overdraft. Remember, ama interest, ama liabilities, angama expense, wonke uzwarekhoda la, right? Wena ke ngoba wenza umatric, kube khona nanye equation ethi maybe a bookkeeper, someone who's doing our books in the business, has just disappeared. He went abroad, and we can't able to trace him. You see, just disappear, and then he disappeared, maybe let's say with 50,000. So that amount of money is still unpaid, because 50,000 is a lot of money. So you can say missing. You can say missing here, or theft. So it's also a part of what? Of the CPJ. If, for instance, there's a bookkeeper who just disappear instead of appear, just disappear with a huge amount of money, and then we can't able to trace him or her, and then that figure is supposed to go to the CPJ. Then bese usuya balance ke la mfundi, you get the totals accordingly. You get the totals here, get the totals of the CPJ. You also get the totals of what? Of the CRJ. That's the first step, right? Totals on this side, total on this side. And then now you go now and open what? The bank account. You open now the bank account, okay? Remember, in the answer book, kuzobe kukhona ibox nje lapha kuphela. Wena uzofuna wenze i-T-form, right? Kanje njengoba ngenza nje mfundi, uzofika wenze kanje, ubhale bank account. Ukhumbule ukuthi uvumelekile ukubhala nangepencil. Kwisifundo se-accounting ungabhala ngepencil from the first question to the last. Into engafunakali ukuthi ubhale ngepencil uphinde uzobhala ngepeni, yabo usushimizwe usubhala i-exam kabili bese ukhala ngokuthi awuqedanga. Kufanele uchoose. Kodwa siya understand mhlawumbe ukuthi ufike wabhala mhlawumbe ngepeni, mhlawumbe bese somewhere noma in between usuqhubeka ngepencil. You understand, mhlawumbe let's say ipeni lakho liphelile, yabo wasuqhubeka ngepencil, kodwa ungakubhali ngakho ku2. I-mode of communication ifuneka ibe yodwa, right? So uzobunikeziwe lapha namfundi i-BRS. Mhlawumbe let's say now we are doing October. Remember we said i-bank reconciliation statement we are doing it on a monthly basis. Internal auditor or is the one that manage that be in a position to prepare i-BRS, or the bookkeeper on a monthly basis njalo ngenyanga, right? Ubuyenzile okay, ikhona i-BRS ya last month, right, September. On the BRS you go there and check if let's say your bank balance for last month was on the debit side. Even here it must be on the debit side. Then usuyabhala balance PD brought down. You record the figure here, right? If with previous BRS i-bank balance yakho was on the credit side, even here uzoyibhala on the credit side. Okay, I hope uyakuzwa lokho. Ngiyaphinda, if let's say senza i-BRS for this month, right, our bank balance in the previous BRS was on the debit side, even nala kufuneka ibe ku debit side. If last month in the previous BRS bank reconciliation statement our bank balance was on the credit side, even here we must write it on the credit side. Okay, and then sesiba nanla ni CRJ we call it what? Total receipts. So they go to a posting. Posting occurs whereby you take the total from the respective journals to the ledger. So now you come and take this figure here of the CRJ. You see this CRJ here, that total is there. Usuzoyibhala kuphi la mfundi in your bank account. Right? Phinde futhi ngala unani unama total payments. This is CPJ. Record the figure and then balance now. You have to balance. Let's assume that debit side is greater than credit side. So which means this one less this one, uthola a shortfall yala. That is what? Balance CD carried down. Right? Let's say everything like at September. So which means here it's the 1st of October 2020. Right? September here 2020. September 1 la or 31st of September. Right? So the figure is the same as these figures are the same. Right? So that is step 2. This is step 2. Step 2 column fund. Step 2 lo without fear or favor. All the marks was our taller, our right. So we move on again now. Remember, before maybe I move on, debit side. Remember, bank in terms of the 5 letters, right? In terms of the assets, liabilities, owners' equity, expenses, as well as the income. What is a bank? I normally call it's a 5 letters. Bank is an asset. Therefore, it's increasing on the debit side. This is the debit side. This is the credit side, right? On the debit side, bank here increase, reason it's an asset, and decrease on the credit side, right? So which means bank on the debit side, it's what is favorable. Favorable. On the credit side is what? It's unfavorable. Unfavorable. Because you can come across this question that says, what is the balance carried down in a bank account? Is it favorable or unfavorable? Therefore, you must be in a position to tell. Okay. Step 3. Let's go to step 3. Bank reconciliation statement. Bank reconciliation statement. Okay, we are doing now our current BRS. Right. Let's write it nicely there on top. Our heading. Bank reconciliation statement in brackets I will write BRS, right? Remember BRS asiyenzi thina yenziwa ibank, but funeka si reconcile check ukuthi ngempela lokho okuvela lapha ku bank statement sikwenzile ngempela. If akukho njalo ngenzeka ukuthi ibank ilenze iphutha, nathi futhi ngenzeka ukuthi silenze iphutha, kodwa kufanele kube khona umuntu ozo reconcile, which means ozokwazi ukuthi ahlanganise lokho. Njengoba kathi sishiya ukuthi what is the purpose of doing in bank reconciliation statement. We are saying we are doing it for internal control purposes or measures, to correct the errors and the omission, is to get the correct bank balance and so on and so forth, right? Siyaqhubeka ke mfundi. This is the format of the BRS bank reconciliation statement. We have debit, we have credit, right? Now the format here too. Nice, right? Siswa step 2, right? Step 1 is stay ama journals. SRJ and the CPJ. We post there since I posting to the ledger accounts, natural ledger accounts here too. Joba uibona, balance at the beginning, total receipts always on the debit side of the bank account, total payments always on the credit side of the bank account. And therefore some balances lapha on the credit side sathola ini i-balance CD, right? So i-balance carried down yethu, it's on the credit side in the bank account. So which means bank statement will be on the debit side. So sesiyabhala debit balance as per bank account. The bank debit balance as per bank account. So if you get a record la nansi le afika le angisho yibona la ikwa credit side kwi bank account but kwi bank statement ikwa debit side. I reason buka ukuthi yini isizathu mfundi. Remember mfundi ka matric or ka multiplication ukuthi u debit side ku bank statement it's unfavorable. U credit side it is favorable. Right? Why kube I opposite? Bheka la angisho yabo ibank similar to lokhu kufuneka kuzela lokhu kuzela. Remember ukuthi ibank statement asiyenzi. Uma ufika ebank ufike udeposita imali bona ba credit. If you are withdraw imali bona bathi thank you very much. They are debiting, they are paying you the money. So it's always an opposite. Right? So if the figure was on the debit side, if like for instance, let's say our balance carried down was on the debit side, we will be on the credit side. But since our balance carried down is on the credit side, it has to come here on the debit side here. Right? So or we can say unfavorable to unfavorable. You can even right. Bese sesiba nani ke bese sesiba ne outstanding deposit. Always you are saying credit, please ufune indicate la or debit no credit. Credit outstanding deposit. Credit outstanding deposit. Figure yakho ingena ngala on the credit side always. Sometimes uthola ukuthi awu2 ama outstanding deposit ungabhala noma wabhale kanje ubhalela enhle noma just put ama workings here awahlanganise wabhale lapha. I reason I deposit it's an income, ama income ano plus on the credit side. So always ama deposit wabhala on the credit side. Okay, then just banana manje la ama debit outstanding checks, right? So we can have check numbers, let's say okay, into engifuna ukuthi ngikuthipisa yona ke la mfundi uzoqala lapha na kwi previous BRS. Lapha kwi previous BRS uma ngabe mhlambe usususe noma angisho remember lapha ufike wa identify i-stale check, mhlambe uzoba khona mhlambe elinye check mhlambe okukhulunywe ngalo ku information, right? Lelo ongazange usho lutho ngalo, ongazange usho next ngalo, qala ngalo lelo on the previous BRS. Mhlambe let's say check number, let's say 185, so we record here on the debit side. Then bese so check la aqhamuka on the information. Mhlambe let's say there's 187,189. So wabhala la ma check la. So wabhala la mfundi, right? Sometimes you get inokuba equation ibe kwi high order, right? Mhlawumbe uthola ukuthi there was a wrongly debited amount, right? Uzobhala on the credit side. So it manje credit wrongly debited amount. Okay, ngizoyichaza le mhlambe mase senza equation ukuthi iqhamuke kanjani. Then bese ke usuya balances. You balance this, you skip the line by the way, right? Uzoqa ulayini, right? Usuya balances again. Now you add your credit side, right? Maybe let's add our debit side. Let's say debit side uthi mkhulu compare the credit side. Phinde funa ngala the same figure. So obviously shortfall, let's assume ukuthi izoba kwa credit side here. So which means the shortfall will be here. So This figure uzothi manje in credit balance as per bank statement, not as per bank account now, as per bank statement, because really at the end of the day we are doing in a bank statement. Kodwa kwesinye isikhathi unokunikezwa le figure le mfundo thothi vele sebekunikeze le figure ofuneke ibe shortfall ngayo. Wena kwakho sekuwukuthi uprove ukuthi yonke into i-right, so bana ibuza equation ibe kanjalo, noma mhlawumbe uthi ufuneka uyenze wena from A to Z okwazi ukuthi uyibalance kahle equation yakho ungabi khona iproblem, right? So izona izinto ke lezi ezibalekile mfundi mawenza iBRS uyazi iformat lokuthiwa uhlaka noma istructure, right? Kufanele uyazi. Let me just go back a bit bese ke sengiqhubeka namanye ama questions, especially when you come to theory, right? Theory ke bazoyibuza khona la. Step 1 wethu quickly just to recap. Cash journal. These are the two cash journals. You can see cash receipt journal, cash payment journal. So both of these journals, so these are cash journals. These are cash journals because we are dealing with cash journals. Asifuni ke lokhu ubhala uthi document number, date, details. No. Asikufuni lokho. If ama cash journals asiwafundisi la at grade 12 la siya assume ukuthi usuyawazi, thina sifuna nje usineze ifigure engena ku CRJ na CPJ kuphela. You are not doing CRJ or CPJ in a proper way like the lower grades. No. Awukwenzi lokho. Sifuna ukuthi uyawazi ukubona noma u-identify ifigure engena ku CRJ noma engena ku CPJ kuphela. Then from there usuwenza ama totals, usuya poster ususakuletha account, in this case i-bank account. Remember lapho uzobuthole i-box nje kuphela kwi-answer book, wena ufuneke uwenze i-T form, right, noma i-T account urekhode. Remember this figure we set on the previous BRS, right? If on the previous BRS the bank was on the debit side, if analyze on the debit side. If on the previous bank reconciliation statement the bank was on the credit side, analyze on the credit side. So then total receipts from the step 1, total payment also from step 1. So balance, we're having an assumption yokuthi la a balance CD8 will be on the credit side, right? So since a balance CD8 kwa credit side, uma basesenza i-bank account izoba wuphi on the debit side, balance as per bank account. Nansi laphana uyayithola yonke into, no stress, right? And then bese uba nani ne credit outstanding deposit. Always ama outstanding deposit wabhala kuphi on the credit side. I-reason ngama income no plus on the credit side. Bese uba nama outstanding checks, debit the outstanding check, then uqale ngalawa akwi previous BRS ama checks noma angazange ukhulume lutho ngawo. Remember the main aim here is correct ama errors nama omissions, right? So which means la angazange kukhulunywe lutho ngawo, so which means iwona abe omitted noma sale ngephutha. Suqala ngawo la uyabhala excluding lawa osukhulumile ngawo noma osuwa corrected noma there's something yabo eshow ngayo ubusaphinda lawo, right? Then so then usucheck amanye azovuka ku information ongazange kushow lutho ku ngawo, so which means still those one are still outstanding. So uyabhala la, and then bese ke mhlawumbe njengoba kade sengishilo kunokwenzeka sometimes uthola ukuthi kune amount okuthiwa it was wrongly debited, usuzoyi correct la on the CPJ, and then usuyabalansisa ke manje usuthola ini i-balance as per bank statement. In other question papers baqala nge-balance as per bank statement and therefore end nge-balance as per bank account. It doesn't matter as long as if everything ikhona la mangabe sekumakwa yonke into ofuneke ibe la, don't worry. You can even do it like that if esikoleni niyenza kanjalo, but what is important here ukuthi yonke into ofuneke ibe la, so wathi ama markers mangabe semakha akwazi ukuthi angineze ama marks asuke ekhona-ke laphana ama-options okumaka for abafundi ukuthi okay umfundi mayibhale kanje wena sebenzisa le ndlela le oyijwayele mhlawumbe uma uthi lena awuyijwayelanga abanye basebenzisa let's say only one babhala ama-brackets and no brackets kukuwena kodwa nxa uthi le iba simple kakhulu ngoba uyakwazi kwesinye isikhathi nanokuthi ubone ukuthi this one is favorable. Enye equation engabuzwa ke mfundi ukuthi calculate the bank reconciliation statement and also state whether is it favorable or unfavorable. Njengalela nje ubona nje nansi it's on the credit side, so which means injani i-favorable, so fanele ustate lokho yabo. Noma kuthiwa isho ukuthi i-balance as per bank statement is it favorable or unfavorable, then usuyasho ukuthi it is unfavorable, i-reason ekwa debit side la yabo. Ezinye izinto lezokufuneka uzazi ke mfundi ama-tabletini. Okay, bese sesiyabheka amanye ama-questions abathanda ukuthi bawabuze. Onke lama questions mfundi ngicabanga ukuthi nje sengizamile ukuthi ngiwaphendule noma usungaba sesimeni sokuthi ungakwazi ukuthi uwaphendule ngoba sengunikezile i-background of the bank reconciliation statement, right? Nansi enye i-question abathanda ukuthi bayibuze kakhulu ithi services fees and the interest on the bank overdraft will be recorded as bank charges in the cash payment journal. Right, services fees, right? Services fees and the interest on bank overdraft. Nakho lapha ngisho yabona ungaba nama services fees noma ama bank charge lapha. Onke ama payments, let's say unama bank charge also must come here. Right? So ungaba mhlawumbe nama bank charges. Right. Nako umbuzo lapho usubuziwe mfundi to ama-services fees, right? And the interest on overdraft will be recorded as a bank charges in the cash payment journal. So you have to say whether true or false. 2 marks lo. When the iphutha nje u2 marks usuhambe. Funeke ke isikhathi sokwenza amaphutha asekho manje. Right? Asekho ngempela. I-answer yalaphana ke mfundi is false, right? I-reason, okay, what is common about these two? Ukuthi ko-2 lokhu sirecorda kwi-CPJ. Nje ubona nje la sirecordile i-interest on overdraft, saphinde futhi sarecord ama-bank charges lapha eqaleni. Kodwa akusikuhlanganisi ngoba la kuthiwa collective sirecorda as bank charge. No. Ama-bank charge, let me just write here. What constitutes the bank charge? Yini eyenza ama-bank charges? Bank charges. Nasi mfundi izinto ezenza ama-bank charge, right? Services fees plus credit card levy, plus levy, ama-levy plus cash book. Yeah, konke nje so ilezi imali eyichargewa yibank lezi mfundi sibiza ukuthi yini ama-bank charges. Awekho ama-interest lapha. Ama-interest azimele. What is common about ama-bank charge nama-interest on overdraft ukuthi ko-2 sirecorda kwi-CPJ kodwa asirecord as bank charges. Nazi izinto ezenza ama-bank charge: services fees, credit card levy, the levy and the cash book. So konke lokhu is part of the bank charges. Remember ama-bank charge lezi imali lezi eyichargewayo mhlawumbe for ama-bank statement noma uma withdrawer noma udeposita i-bank le ukuze libe sustainable, right? So yona izona mali lezi ke eli-chargeayo kuma-client wabo okuyithina in this case. Okay, umbuzo ke abathanda kakhulu ukuthi bawubuze lo and abafundi abawutholi right bonke. Okay, nansi enye question futhi ebuzwayo abathanda kakhulu ukuthi bayibuze. A debit balance on the bank statement reflect unfavorable balance. A debit balance in the bank statement. Okay, let me just take you to my format or to our format akade besiyenza. Nansi a debit balance in the bank statement reflect as unfavorable. You can see there on top, the answer is there. It's what? True. Yes, indeed. David side we-bank statement noma we-bank reconciliation statement unjani unfavorable, credit side unjani favorable. Amamaki ke uyawathatha onke awushiyi lutho, right? Bese kuza nansi question enye futhi abayithandayo, but an internal auditor should inspect the bank reconciliation statement at the end of each month. Remember ke mfundi ke sinama auditors ahlukahlukene, khona kuthiwa i-internal, nansi internal auditor, right? Okay, mhlawumbe noma asiphendule i-question bese ngiyachaza kabanzi, ne? Ithi question, an internal auditor should inspect the bank reconciliation statement at the end of each month. Shilo sathi yes, sometimes uba khona internal auditor noma i-bookkeeper each and every month kufanele kwenziwe ini i-bank statement. So the answer there is true, right? Kodwa ke ayikho into e-disappointing njengokuthi umuntu abhale OT no F instead of true no false, kodwa kubhaliwe to state whether true or false. Omunye azabhala ispelling esi-wrong kodwa ispelling sibhaliwe on the question paper. So azama ukuthi siqapheleke lapho singalahla ama-marks isidingo singekho, right? So the answer there is true. Awukho ngi-explain le ndaba yama-auditors, right? Ngesizulu kambe yini ama-auditor? Auditor abacwaningi mabhuku, yes, awuthi ngibiza right impela. Abacubunguli mabhuku, okay, bacwaningi, right? Auditors. So we've got two types of audit, not two, right? But at high school we focus on two. We have the internal auditor. We have an external. Okay, at high school we focus mostly on this two. We have an external auditor, or we call it independent auditor, right? The high school is focused about two kakhulu, kodwa it's not a crime ukwazi ukuthi khona amanye ama-auditors, khona la kama othiwa ama-forensic auditors. These are auditors abadila ngobugebengu obuhleliwe, lokho kuthiwa is the crime syndicates, right? Like ama-Hawks, Scorpion, yabo, gebengu obuhleliwe laphana, kuthiwa if those are the forensic, right? Bese bakhona ama-auditors for the government, right? Start from nationally, provincially, local, as well as metro municipalities, right? Those are the auditors for the government, right? Bese bakhona ama-auditors for special purpose. For instance, uthola ukuthi maybe kune plane ecrashile, so it's not fair ukuthi ungahambisa abantu who never been in that field uthi abayo investigate, yabona, in that kind of situation. But ufuna uhambisa abantu abangama-expert, normally kuba abantu abakade bengama-pilot, then base sebeya-resign noma base beya-retire, and then what they are doing now baya-investigate, then bafike ba-check ukuthi ngempela what like the cause ukuthi iplane i-crash, yabo. If nje ngenza isibonelo, mhlawumbe if ngingakhumbula about the life esidimeni eGauteng, right? Where abantu ababe ne-challenge, they were neglected there, and then they end up losing their life. So there was investigation that took place, and that investigation ibilidwa ubaba uMakgoba aka-Vice Chancellor yase-University of KwaZulu-Natal. Baba uMakgoba ke Professor Makgoba, right? Yena udokotela, is a medical doctor by profession, right? So that's why he was equal to the task, because this was involved with the Department of Health, right, and other stakeholders. So you send someone there who is having an understanding. For instance, you cannot say uhambisa umuntu ayo investigate, mhlawumbe let's say abafundi kade bekopisha or what, who never been in that field of education, So it's the same thing. So I'm trying to explain other types of auditors. Then the internal and the external. Internal auditor, it's an employee of the business, right? Let's write it here. So you can employee of the business, employee of the business, right? Is an employee of the business. Another point, he fulfilled the needs of the management. So his mandate is to fulfill the needs of the management, right? So uyisebenzi sala law, right? Fulfill the needs of the business or of the management, sorry. Right. Bese kuthi kwi-external auditor, right? Okay, it's also entitled yena into akazoyithola ukuphela kwenyanga uthola ini i-wages and salary. That is an internal because vele it's one of us. So it's getting what? Wages or salaries, right? Because it's one of us, right? His main aim is to detect and prevent a fraud. Okay, very important, right? Main aim is to detect and prevent the fraud. Right, that is his main aim. And then the one up to external, noma independent. Lona ufika nje once a year. Lo it's a full-time employee of vaccine njenga wonke umuntu azosebenza la, right? Sebenzi wakhe kwenza sure ukuthi konke njengoba sesishilo lapho ukuthi an internal auditor should inspect the bank reconciliation statement at the end of each month. So one of his duties and responsibility is to ensure that bank reconciliation statements and other books are appropriately done or are done, right? Hence is an employee of the business, right? Full-time, fulfill the needs of the management, right? Is entitled to the wages and salaries now. The main aim is to detect and prevent the fraud. While law or external auditor, right? Yena whatever akayenza uyenzela i-third party okuyini la ongama shareholders, right? This one he conducts audit on behalf. Remember, sine auditor. I-auditor yenza ini? An audit. An audit is an assignment. Into le akayenzayo, right? You are an auditor, wenza ini? I-audit. Sometimes ngoba khona ini to a audit committee, so which means the group yama auditors, right? Yenza the assignment, right? So employee of the business, okay, is an employee. So this one is not an employee of the business, okay? Not an employee of the business. Not the employee of the business. And some of you will be auditors one day as you are doing e-commerce, normal accounting, right? He fulfilled the needs of the shareholders. Whatever uyenzela ama shareholders. Remember, my shareholders are the owners of the business. They are not running the business. Some of them, they put their money, and therefore everything as sure. Auditors, they will buy on it. It's like abazali ibona abaphethe isikole, if it's a public school, right? But kune-team kuthiwa i-SGB okuyibona abahlalayo la benze iy'nqumo on behalf of i-masses noma the entire parents, right? So it's the same thing, right? So this one they are doing the audit on behalf of the shareholders, right? fulfill the needs of the third party, that is the shareholders. Fulfill the needs of shareholders. Shareholders ongama owners of the business. Abanye ama expertise, abazi ukuthi how to do the books. They just put their investment there. So whatever is sure, auditors, because by neutral, they're independent, abeko biased, right? So this one, they're entitled to what? To audit fee. Audit fees. Imali abazoyithola akushiyo ukuthi wages and salary, kuthiwa yini? It's an audit fees, right? And that incidentally in terms of dealing with fraud. But if fraud is there, therefore they can report it to the relevant people to come and deal with that. So I was trying to draw the line between these two kind of auditors, because sometimes they confuse our learners and tothi abasazi ufune benzeni. So ufune wazi ke like between these two, right? Ukuthi ukephi umehluko. As I already said, this one they are doing the audit on behalf of our shareholders, ongama owners of the business, right? Laba, the employees of the business, they take a mandate, noma ama instruction from the management, and at the same time, foot nabo, but they are entitled, noma they are obliged, noma bathola imali. Njengawo umsebenzi walakhaya ukuthiwa i-wage noma i-salary. Their main aim is to detect and prevent fraud. Here it's incidentally in terms of dealing with the fraud, but if a fraud arises, therefore they can deal with it accordingly. So izo lazi into lezo kufuneke uzazi ke mfundi kama tibletsheni, right? Ngiphinde futhi ngiqhubeke, right? Ngiyaqhubeka mfundi, nathi enye question futhi abathanda kakhulu ukuthi bakubuze yona, but identify the gap principle applied to the bookkeeper. Let's say njengoba kade sengishilo ngazi mhlambe i-bookkeeper ivele disappearish. The bookkeeper just disappear maybe with an amount of 50,000, right? Just disappear, maybe aye abroad or asazi ukuthi uyephi kodwa nje esikwazi ukuthi it just disappear, right? Which gap principle we have to apply if umuntu in business just disappear, right? So, and then provide two suggestions on how similar problem can be prevented in future. Iziphi ezinye ke inhlaka esingazenza ukuthi ingenzeki lento eyenzekile ukuthi umuntu avele anyamalale nemali mhlawumbe ngango 50,000 noma ngango 10,000 or 100,000 and then total kuthiwa uye abroad, right? So the principle lapha, remember some principles from grade 10, sine historical principle, sine matching principle, income statement, the income and the expenses, sine we have matching, right? Historically you record the figures at its original cost, sine prudence, is the materiality, right? It's the business entity rule, right? So it's a prudence principle here, right? So which means our internal control measures are not tight. Ukuthi umuntu angavele nje anyamalale singazi ukuthi uyephi, right? Kufanele sazi ukuthi umuntu uyephi, maybe like the time eqashwa azange ngitouch ama proper documents in terms of the IDs and what ama relative next of kin, right? So abantu kufanele sizilungise lezo as a business. Kufanele senze introspection lokuthiwa ngesizulu sifunele siyinoko amakhwapha kwasathini ukuthi lonke into efunele siyenze right. And therefore iziphi izathu okanye what are the internal control measures that can be done to ensure that in future ingenzeki lento leyo. So njengoba sengishilo ukuthi izinto ofunele sizenze, we have to make sure that we get their correct details, right? And internal control measures must be tight, right? So to ensure that in future akwenzeki iphutha elifana nalelo. Ngicabanga ukuthi isikhathi sethu sesiphelile bafundi. Siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi nisilalele and nilethe imibuzo njengoba nje nihlale nikwenza lokho. Sibonga kakhulu kodwa njena siqhubeke sipractice ningasho ukuthi njengoba senibhale i-trial njena it's over, right? It will be over up until nibhale i-final njalo nje nipractice nisimamele futhi ngaso lesikhathi lesi njalo ngomsombuluko lokuthiwa kwaXhosa ngomvulo. Inkosi kakhulu, siyabonga.
Siyathemba nifunde kahle nasithokozela isifundo sethu sanamhlanje enisethulelwe ngezidlokotho ezinhle Ithala libambisene neGo Digital SA Foundation. Thamelani ke futhi esilandelayo ngesikhathi sifanayo, ningakhohlwa ukumema nabanye abafundi bebanga le-12 ukuze nabo basizakale kulolu hlelo. Uma ninemibuzo noma nifisa ukuxhumana nathi, ningasithinta ngokufaka imibuzo yenu kwinombolo yethu ye-WhatsApp ethi 068 151 1072. Mfundi, ungakhohlwa ukubhala isifundo obuza ngaso ngaphambi kokubhala umbuzo wakho. Angiyiphinde inamba yethu 068 151 1072. Siyabonga.